What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the show, Under Center with Abelson, presented by Real Spiel Podcast. We are back with another one. We are about a week and a half away from week 0, so the college football season is creeping up, man. It's going to be here quicker than we know it. It's funny how when the season ends in January, you're like, no college football for 7, 8 months. And you snap your fingers and then you're right back into it. But with that being said, I wanted to, get out here, get you guys another episode. Um, Today, I wanted to dive into the betting odds, a lot of preseason betting odds and betting picks that I want to make going to the season. I'm a huge college football gambler. It's the only time I gamble is when college football is on. It's what I know best, and I hate losing money, so it's typically what I only bet on. Since the season ended back in January, I've probably only bet on like 2 or 3 times. I know I've bet on like an NBA game or two, and then a couple of the NFL games I'll usually sprinkle on. But it's typically college football. Like I said, it's the sport that I know the best, so it's typically what I am, spending most of my time betting on. But yeah, like I said, I want to get into some of these preseason picks, some national championship favorites, Heisman favorites, who I think are going to take some of those awards home, total wins, over unders, and etc. I also wanted to get into some other news. There was some surprising news that came out of Oklahoma with John Mateer. Speaking of gambling, um, I'll leave it at that. We'll dive into that later, and then I also wanted to discuss, the AP preseason poll officially came out. I know I put my preseason AP poll out a couple days ago, so just wanted to kind of take a look at those and look at the comparisons and look at what the voters voted on versus what I put in my poll. So, yeah, got a jam-packed show, so let's get into it. Like I said, I want to kick it off with some preseason betting odds and betting picks that I personally like and that I will probably put a little bit of money on. Um, Kick it off. I want to start out with some conference winners. Um, we'll start with the ACC conference winners. I It's hard for me to not pick any other team except Clemson. I think their odds right now are plus 110 or plus 105. I think it's plus 105, which there's not a lot of value with that because they're heavy favorites to win. I would I'm personally going to sprinkle Louisville too because I'm a Louisville fan. And we're third in the favorite odds. I think we're plus 700 to win, plus 700 or plus 730. I think there's more value in that. And being a Louisville fan, I genuinely think we can win the conference. But if I was just an unbiased bettor, I would probably pick, Clemson to win it. Like I said, I think they're going to go 11-1, 10-2 at worst. And with that, Clemson has literally won every single ACC championship game they've been in since I think like 2013, 2014, since Dabo went on this run. And the only times they haven't won the ACC is the years that they didn't make it. Like I said, I'm pretty sure they've won 8 of the last like 10 ACC championships. So they don't lose that game when they get there, and they rarely ever do not get there. So yeah, right now, Clemson, they're going to be my ACC championship favorite lock to win. So I'm going to put a little money on that. For the SEC, this is where it gets a little tricky. I've narrowed it down to either Texas or Georgia. Um, Texas, I like Texas slightly more than Georgia. I'll probably sprinkle a little bit on both, but if I had to pick one, it would be Texas. I think Texas is going to win the SEC this year. Um, Sark is he's got that thing rolling right now, man. It took him a little bit to get there. I know everybody was hollering Texas, when are they going to be back? But he has that thing rolling down a mountain, and that thing is building up steam. Um, it's it's crazy because they should have won it last year. They let Georgia kind of take it away from them. Um, but that was with above average play from Quinn Ewers, and they still were knocking on the door of winning it. They still made it to back national semis with kind of average play from a quarterback. So even if Arch Manning comes in and just does what Quinn Ewers does, he comes in, doesn't do too much, and just runs the system that Sark has, Texas is going to be good. They're just so loaded everywhere else, man. And I think Arch Manning is going to be better than Quinn Ewers. I think he has more talent. I think he's going to rise above the X's and O's slightly better because Quinn Ewers was a big, like, dink and dunker, take what the defense gives you, short play, short yardage kind of guy. I think Arch Manning has the potential to, take the top off, hit things deep. Plus, he's more athletic. He can actually get out of the pocket and move. So, yeah, right now, Texas is going to be my favorite to win the SEC. I think they're sitting at plus 280 right now. Um, I think Georgia does give you a little better odds, not too significantly enough better odds, but plus 300 is what Georgia's sitting at. I think they're going to both be playing for the SEC championship game. But right now I'm taking Texas to win the SEC, and I will sprinkle a little bit on Georgia. For the Big Ten, like I said in my preseason top 25 video, I think it's going to be Penn State, man. I think Penn State is going to go to the national championship. I think they are just going to be that good this year. I think Drew Aller is going to take another step, man. He's kind of a quarterback people aren't too high on, which is a little surprising, but granted, he has left some to be desired in the last couple of years. But you got to think, last year was his second year starting, and he made, I think, a step above his first year starting. And this is a guy who he doesn't turn the ball over. He had 4 interceptions last year. I think 28 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Um, I think he's going to take another step this year. I think this year is going to be the year he finally locks it and puts it all together. And like I said, I think Penn State, they have the formula. They're bringing all their guys back. They have experience. They have talent. And I think this year is going to be the year James Franklin gets it done. And yeah, I think they're going to win the Big Ten. Right now, I think they're second in favorites. Ohio State is first, I think, at plus 180. Penn State is, let's see, Penn State is sitting at plus 210, second favorites to win the Big Ten. And I think they're going to get it done. I also have Penn State as my national championship winner. Right now, I think they're sitting at plus 700 to win the national championship. I think that's great value. Plus 700. And I think they're third or fourth in odds to win the national champion. Like I said, there's a formula. Bring all your guys back, have experience, have talent. Michigan did it. Ohio State did it, served them well. So I think Penn State follows foot and does the same thing. I think this is the year they do get over the hump. I actually have Texas and Penn State playing in the national championship game. Um, yeah, that's who I have right now. A little group of five action. This is a little stretch, but Southern Miss, I have them to win the Sun Belt. Um, Southern Miss was a team that I think they finished last in the Sun Belt last year. They were not very good, but they kind of pulled the Indiana with Coach Sig, how he left JMU and went to Indiana and brought all his guys and had an incredible season. I think that's going to be what Southern Miss does. Their coach that they got came from Marshall. Marshall won the Sun Belt last year. Coach dipped, said see ya, it was kind of shocking because he went to Southern Miss. Like I said, Southern Miss was terrible last year. Um, and I think he brought a lot of their transfer portal guys, or a lot of their guys from Marshall to Southern Miss. And right now they're sitting at plus 2,000. So I think that's something you could sprinkle something on, throw maybe a unit on Southern Miss to win the conference at plus 2,000. I like their over under win totals too. They're sitting at 5.5 over under win totals. I'd probably play that over the plus to win the conference. But those are both plays that I probably will still do. Let's take a look at some of the Heisman favorites. I know everybody's riding with Arch Manning, Archmania. He's currently favorite to win the Heisman. I think he's sitting at plus 600 to win the Heisman right now, 6-1. I personally, it's a little contradicting because I say I like Texas to win or to go to the national championship game. And I think it's going to be very hard if Texas makes it to the national championship game for Arch to not be a direct relation to that. And if they're good enough to make it to the national championship game, I think it's because Arch has an incredible season. And if he has an incredible season with the storyline, Archmania, all the hype coming into the season, it would be hard to not have him as the Heisman winner. like I said, he's sitting at plus 600. So I think I am going to throw, a unit or two on him to win the Heisman just because of all the hype and scenarios around him and the system that he's in with Texas. But I do slightly like Cade Klubnik a little more to win it. I do think a quarterback's going to win it this year. This is the year of the quarterback. Cade Klubnik, Drew Aller, Arch Manning. You got Sam Levitt going back to Arizona State. Um, DJ Lagway at Florida. Garrett Nussmeier at LSU. Ty Simpson at Alabama. You got Julian Saying. Unless Jeremiah Smith pulled a Devontae Smith and had just an incredible year, it's very, very hard for me to see a scenario where a quarterback does not win it this year. I know Jeremiah loves getting some buzz too, but I don't think we've seen a running back win it since Derrick Henry. I think it's been almost 8-9 years, I think, since we've seen a running back win it. So I just don't see a running back winning it either. So yeah, I think Cade Klubnik is also a good pick. I think he's sitting at about plus 700 right now. I think he's like second or third in odds. And just to go back with my scenario for Texas and Arch Manning, I have Penn State going to the national championship game. I think they're going to win the national championship. And if they're good enough to do that, I think it's going to be a direct correlation with Drew Aller. So I just don't see a scenario where Penn State makes it that deep and Drew Aller is not the reason for it. So I think Drew Aller has some good value. He was sitting at plus 1,800 last time I checked. That could be something worth sprinkling on. But yeah, those are some of the quick, bets that I put down, um, that I will be putting down. Let me go to FanDuel. Let me see if anything else catches my eye. Let's do this. Let's pick one team from each conference. Uh, and I'm gonna look at their over under win totals, and I'm just gonna say if what I would bet on it, and I might even put a little money on those two. So let's start with the SEC. We already talked about Texas and we already talked about Georgia. Let's do who? Let's do Oklahoma. We might pick a couple teams from each conference to talk about. Oklahoma, their win total is sitting at 7.5 plus 112 right now. Oklahoma's tricky, man. They're going to be a tricky team because I love Oklahoma. I like him this year. John Mateer is an absolute stud. I think he's going to turn that thing around. They got Jaden Ott too. That was a not talked about transfer pickup that they got. The running back from Cal last year. He left in the spring portal. Jaden Ott. He was definitely their best player. Last year, he struggled with a little bit of injuries, so he really didn't get off the ground much. But Jaden Ott, I think he's going to have an incredible year this year. And like I said, I had Oklahoma ranked, I think, 22nd or 21st in my rankings. And the only reason I had them a little lower was because their schedule is just so tough. 7.5 wins. It's crazy because I think Oklahoma is going to win 8 games. I think they're going to go 8-4 this year. That schedule is just too brutal. They play Alabama and Tennessee, I think, back-to-back road games. 7.5 at plus 110. I slightly like the over to that. I think they go 8 wins, 4 losses, 8-4. They're not gonna make the playoffs, but they will finish the year ranked. I think 9-3 is the cutoff with these teams in the SEC with the tough schedule, like Georgia, like Florida, Oklahoma. I think you have to go 9-3 in the SEC to make the playoff. But I do like the over slightly 7.5, and for Oklahoma to win 8 games. Let's take another look. Uh, Missouri's another one. Missouri's another team that's not getting. I'm not big on Missouri. I think they're just a bunch of frauds and they're pretty phony. They had such an easy schedule last year and they just kind of crumbled. I do think though, because they do SEC basically just flipped the schedules from last year. So if you were on the road last year, you're at home this year. If you were at home this year, you're on the road you're on the road. Missouri, just because their schedule is so easy and their win total is sitting at 6.5. I actually like the over on that. It's at minus 162. So Vegas also agrees that that over is probably the play. The schedule is pretty easy again. So I would probably take Missouri over 6.5 as well. Um, And again, I'm not going to give you guys something that I personally wouldn't bet on. That's something I'll probably put a little money on as well. Let's go to the Big Ten. Let's see. Illinois. Let's look at Illinois. Right now, they're sitting at over 8.5 wins at plus 152. Um, that's pretty interesting, man. That is pretty interesting. Illinois is another team that's getting a lot of hype right now. Just with, along with South Carolina, they had a great end of the year last year. They brought a lot of their production back. Luke Altmaier, their quarterback from last year, is back. I do. Oh man, 8.5. Because it is plus 152, I would probably take the over on that because I do think they're gonna I think they can go 9-3 this year. I think Illinois will go 9-3. At worst, I think they'll go 8-4 at the absolute worst. With the value of plus 152, I would probably lean taking that over. Because I personally think they're gonna go 9-3. Their schedule isn't too tough. Let's take a look at Illinois' schedule. I think uh Illinois. Let's see. Their schedule isn't too tough. They play Duke in the non-con. They play Indiana. They play USC, Ohio State. Okay, their schedule's a little tough. The tough games are Ohio State, USC could be a sneaky one. Indiana, that could be a sneaky one. But I really only see three losses: a loss potentially to Indiana, loss to Ohio State, and then that leaves one more loss for like either USC or potentially Duke or like a sneaky team like Washington. So yeah, I like Illinois to go 9-3 this year. Let's see. Let's pick another team. Uh USC. Let's do USC, man. USC is getting a lot of buzz this year. Just like last year, they got a lot of hype in the preseason. I was not big on USC last year. I'm not really big on them this year. I just don't think it's gonna work with Lincoln Riley, man. I just for whatever reason do not think it is. Right now, their win total is sitting at 7.5 at minus 160. I think, yeah, I mean, I think USC is going to be a 7 or 8 win team this year. I I cannot see USC winning 9 games. I just do not see that whatsoever. Um, let's take a look at their schedule. They got Michigan State, Illinois, Michigan, Notre Dame. They got Iowa and Oregon. Yeah, I'm sorry. I just personally do not see USC winning 9 games. I think Illinois is going to be a loss. I think Michigan's going to be a loss. I think Notre Dame's going to be a loss. That's 3 losses right there. I think Oregon's going to be, yeah, I think Oregon, Iowa, US or Notre Dame, and Michigan. I see USC losing 4 or 5 games. I see them going 7-5 again. At 7-5 or 8-4, one or the other. 7-5 or 8-4. So I'm probably going to take the under on USC. I like the under. They're plus there's a little bit of value, plus 130 for the under for USC at 7.5 wins. I'm gonna take the under on USC. Let's go to the ACC. Uh, let's see. I'm not gonna talk about Clemson. I'm not gonna talk about Louisville. SMU. Let's talk about SMU. I think SMU is going to be a team that's going to take a slight step back from last year. I just they lost their good running back. They lost a lot of talent on the defensive line. Plus, I think it's one of those situations where people kind of Kevin Jennings wasn't the starter going into last year. I think it was Preston Stone. He was the starter. He came in and kind of took over. And I think it was a situation where it was kind of Lamar Jackson, like Lamar Jackson's first year. When Lamar Jackson had his first year, he had a great year because people didn't really know how to game plan for him. So he kind of took people by surprise. I think that was kind of a situation with Kevin Jennings last year. It was a situation where people weren't expecting him to start in the beginning of the year. I think it's just something where, people didn't really figure him out and game plan for him. I'm not as high on SMU this year. I think they're going to take a slight step back. Their over under is at 8.5 right now. I am leaning slight. Let's see, 8.5. Over 8.5 is -122. Under 8.5 is +100. Let's take a look at their schedule because, again, it all depends on your schedule and where teams fall in place on your schedule. Let's see, SMU. They play Baylor. Ooh, that's a tough one. Week 2, they play Baylor. That's a tough schedule. That's a tough game. Baylor's going to be sneaky good. Not even sneaky good this year. Baylor's just going to be good this year. They ended the season winning 6 straight games last year. They play SMU, or SMU plays Baylor, TCU. They play Clemson. They play Miami. They play Louisville. I think that Baylor game could be a loss. I'm not. I think that's. I'm leaning slightly Baylor 60-40. TCU is going to be another sneaky good team this year. I slightly have SMU winning that game. Syracuse, they're going to win. Stanford, they're going to win. Clemson, they're going to lose. Miami, they're going to lose. I think they're going to lose to Miami and Clemson. So that's 2, I think, guaranteed losses for me. Leaning more towards Baylor as well. So that's 3 losses. That would put them in 9-3. And then I personally think they're going to lose to Louisville. I don't see them being Louisville again this year. So yeah, I think that puts them at 8-4. So I would probably take the under on SMU. I have them winning 8 games this year. Under is +100 for 8.5. Let's see. Let's take a look. And then we'll finish off. We'll do one more. We'll do one more ACC team. Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech is another team that's getting a lot of hype going into this year. They are, again, this is just another team. There's just a certain group of teams every year that get preseason hype that I never buy into, and I always get proven right because they have mediocre seasons. Last year it was USC, Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech. Oh my gosh, I had to hear so much about Virginia Tech last year. Oh, they have the most returning production. They have the number 1 returning production in all the country. Kyron Drones, Brett Key, the coach, is blah blah blah. And then every year, and then I think they won 6 games last year again. So yeah, Georgia Tech, USC, Virginia Tech. There's just these group of teams who always get preseason hype, and a lot of people are putting Georgia Tech right there because of the way they finished against Georgia last year. They took them to 8 overtimes. Blah blah blah. Nonetheless, I do think Georgia Tech is going to be a pretty good team this year. I probably would put them in the 7-8 win category. I'm sure their over and under is probably 7.5. Yeah, it's 7.5. -162. So Vegas thinks a little highly of Georgia Tech. Vegas thinks Georgia Tech's probably going to win 8 games this year, 8 or 9 games. Let's go look at Georgia Tech's schedule. Georgia Tech. Again, I don't dislike Georgia Tech. I just think, again, they had a bunch of hype coming into the season last year. They were ranked, I think, like 21 after beating Florida State, and then again they finished 7-5 last year. It's whatever. Georgia Tech plays Clemson. They play well, they have a pretty easy schedule. So okay, never mind. Georgia Tech has I understand the hype from a schedule standpoint. They play Colorado week 1. That's going to be a tough game, but they are -4 favorites right now. They play Clemson. They play Wake Forest, Virginia Tech, Duke, Syracuse, NC State, Boston College, Pitt, and Georgia. I think they lose to Georgia. That's 1 loss. I think they lose to Clemson. That's 2 losses. I think that Colorado game is so tricky. That's a coin flip game to me. It's at Colorado. It's on the road. -4. I'm a little surprised by that, especially with it being on the road. That's a 50-50 game. I'll just put it as Georgia Tech wins. Colorado has a lot of question marks. I think Georgia Tech is there's more knowns with Georgia Tech um, coming into this year. They're bringing back their quarterback, Haynes King. They're bringing back their running back, Jamal Haynes. The coach, he is a good coach. I like him. He's a good coach. He gets his team ready to play tough, physical. And again, Colorado, they're bringing in a new starter. They have a lot to replace, obviously, with Travis Hunter, and they have a lot to replace with Shador Sanders. So I'll probably lean a little Georgia Tech on that. But okay, so I could see Georgia Tech easily going. I could see them going 10-2, 9-3. So honestly, yeah, I'd probably take. Okay, we're gonna take the over on that. Yeah, yeah. Let's look at the schedule again. Clemson and Georgia are the only guaranteed losses. They play Duke. I can see them beating Duke, beating Virginia Tech. Okay, so I slightly understand the hype a little bit. They have such an easy schedule and they're bringing a lot of people back. So I do think this is a situation where Georgia Tech could have a good year. So their over under is at 7.5. So I'm going to take the over on Georgia Tech 7.5 at -162. And then the Big 12, man. This is the conference that nobody knows anything about. Kansas, though. Let's talk about Kansas. I want to talk about Kansas. Their over under is sitting at 6.5. I love the over on this one. I love the over. I do know they have to replace Devin Neal, the running back. He was the All American running back last year, but they are bringing their quarterback back, Jaden Daniels. Jaden, I always get him and Washington's quarterback confused. Washington Redskins or football team. Um, let's take a look at Kansas's schedule. But they finished the season so great last year. They just went on a run where they beat like 4 ranked teams in a row. They had a tough start to the season last year, but I love the way they finished the season last year. And they are bringing their quarterback back. Um, they're bringing their quarterback Jalen Daniels. I always forget his name. They're bringing Jalen Daniels back. So oh man, let's see. They play Missouri. That rivalry is getting renewed. They play West Virginia, Cincinnati, UCF, Texas Tech, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, Arizona, Iowa State, and Utah. Man, that Big 12 is going to be pretty good this year, man. There is a lot of good teams. Man, I don't know. 6.5. Wow. Let's take a look. I think they're going to lose to Missouri. That's one loss. Texas, that's the thing. They beat a lot of these ranked teams last year, man. Like Texas Tech, for example. That's a game they're probably going to be favored to lose, but that's a game I could see them upsetting him. Yeah, I'm gonna go with over 6.5 wins for Kansas. I just really like Kansas, man. They are a good team. They're bringing a good quarterback back. I think he finally found his footing towards the end of last season. I like Kansas to win over 6.5, and it's at -162. So Vegas, Vegas likes that as well. Vegas likes that as well. So that's enough for the betting odds. Like I said, I'm going to try and bring at least one segment a week of just my picks for the week. Every week, I'm going to preview some games for the weekend. So with that, I'll probably add the money lines and odds on those and talk about those as well. Um, Speaking of gambling, segueing into our next topic, some news came out the other day, late at night, randomly. I thought it was fake when it came out. I thought it was like some AI troll stuff. John Mateer, the quarterback from Oklahoma, he is caught in some betting allegations apparently when he was a freshman at Washington State, a redshirt freshman. Um, they're saying it was some Texas fans, which goes to show you how deep that rivalry is. A Texas fan is sitting here randomly in August on a Tuesday night, just going through John Mateer's Venmo account, and they saw some. He was Venmoing transactions with gambling and betting and UCLA versus USC. He came out with a statement saying that this was just trolling, it was jokes, because when you Venmo your friends, you always put the most outlandish stuff on there. And I kind of believe him because why would you, if you know you're not supposed to bet, why would you go and put gambling under gambling? Why would you go and put the game you're gambling on as the description? That just would not make any sense. He would have to actually be pretty dumb or just again trolling to do that. And I think it's trolling because these schools, they have everything in place to figure that out. I'm sure they could easily, especially with FanDuel. I'm pretty sure FanDuel could just like look up your IP, and I'm pretty sure they keep record of all that stuff because he just needs to watch what he is putting as his descriptions when he Venmos people. But I thought that was like I got a kick from that. I got a kick from that because I was not expecting that. And I know Oklahoma fans were pissing down their legs and probably terrified because, oh, we finally got a good quarterback. We finally got the guy we want. And boom, gambling allegation. So it's going to be interesting to see if anything comes from that, if the NCAA does investigate that any further. They always move as slow as possible with all this stuff. So who knows? But yeah, that's all I want to talk about on that. And lastly, I do want to hit on the top 25. The preseason top 25, the official preseason top 25 came out. So I just want to touch base on that and just kind of, compare it to what I put out. Um, let's see. So the preseason top 25, Texas was the number one team in the country. Penn State, Ohio State, Clemson, Georgia, Notre Dame, Oregon, Alabama, LSU at 9, Ohio or Miami at 10, Arizona State at 11, Illinois, South Carolina, Michigan, Florida, SMU, Kansas State at 12 or 17, Oklahoma at 18, Texas A&M at 19, Indiana, Ole Miss, Iowa State, Texas Tech, Tennessee, and Boise State being the only group of 5 team ranked. Um, the top 8 is the top 8. I'm pretty sure, honestly, the top 10, at least the top 8, everybody and their mamas had in some order the top 8. My top 8, I had Penn State, Texas, Ohio State in the top 3, and then I had Clemson at 4. I had Georgia at 5. I had Bama at 6. I had Notre Dame at 7, Oregon at 8, LSU at 9. So yeah, my top 10 was pretty similar. The most surprising, was there any big surprises? My probably biggest surprise was Arizona State being at number 11. That's pretty high for me. I had Arizona State at 16 or 17, I want to say. Them being at number 11 really surprised me. The AP voters think highly of what they did last year against Texas, taking Texas down to the wire. They should have won that game. They had Texas on 4th and 12 in overtime, and they let a wide open touchdown go by. But I think that's why the AP voters have them so high. I don't just necessarily disagree with it. I just think it's a little surprising. They are bringing back their quarterback, Sam Levitt, Jordan Tyson, Dillingham. He's an excellent coach. They do need to replace Scatterboo at the running back position, but again, I'm not mad at it. It was just a little surprising that they had him that high, especially above teams like Illinois and South Carolina. Um, Illinois, but speaking of Illinois and South Carolina, in my preseason top 25, I talked about how these teams are basically the same to me, in my opinion. They ended the season pretty well last year. They have a lot of preseason hype coming into this year. Um, and they're ranked right next to each other, 12 and 13. Let's see. Michigan at 14. I had Michigan, I think, at 15, so that doesn't really surprise me. I'm a little higher on Indiana than the AP voters. They're at 20. I think I had Indiana at 14 on my ballot or on my rankings. I think, like I said, I believe in Signetti. He's a great coach. He just wins. I think he has a better upgraded quarterback this year. So I think a little more highly of them. Let's see. Yeah, it falls the line. I had Tennessee at 24. I think Tennessee's going to take a step back from what they did last year. Let's see what else. Yeah, there were not really a lot of big surprises. My ballot was pretty similar. I had Texas A&M at 25. They have them at 19. I had Oklahoma at 22 or 23. They have them at 18. So honestly, it's the preseason poll. The preseason poll literally doesn't matter. Every year there's a team that's ranked in the top 10 that finishes outside of the top 25, and there's a team that's unranked that finishes ranked. Last year we saw Florida State start the season at number 10 and they finished unranked. Arizona State started unranked. Boise State started unranked, and those teams finished in the top 15 or whatever. So it's fun to look at, in the preseason, gets you ready for the season, gets you some content out. But at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter because this is going to look pretty different towards the end of the year, I think. Yeah, so that's all we got for today. Just wanted to touch base on a couple things. Like I said, we are a week and a half away from the season. So yeah, next week next weekend is going to be week 0, so I'm going to try and get a preview out on the week 0 game, Kansas State versus Iowa State. That's a hell of a week 0 game, man. Something to get us going, a little appetizer. But yeah, that's all we have for today. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you guys for listening. Thank you. Peace.